Alright, hello everybody. So this is not the normal video you would see from me. I'm sitting here, you see my backdrop and all that from when I'm normally standing up doing videos over here. But I ran across this article. This morning, and it really had me chuckling. It was posted, I ran across it in my Facebook feed, and it's from medium.com. I'll put the link in the description. It's from medium.com from back in December 27th, 2018. Written by Vicky Alver Schechter, I guess is her name. What happened when a Trump supporter challenged me about the wall? And this smug leftist really thinks she got one over on pro-wall people, and it's actually quite humorous to read through, and how easy, even with just a small degree of understanding of the wall, what it takes to build it, what everything that encompasses illegal immigration, drug trafficking, it's astounding at the level of just mind-numbing stupidity is behind this article, and really just anybody who believes it. So I'm going to do a lot of reading to you here. A conservative challenged liberal Facebook friends to, quote, make a case not based on emotion, unquote, against Trump's wall. Conservative buddies flooded his post with snide remarks about how this would be impossible for the, quote, deluded libs, which is turned out to be pretty accurate. Okay, I'll play, I responded. To avoid being accused of bias, I explained that I would use only conservative sources to make my point. My primary source was a policy paper by the Cato Institute. She goes on to say, a conservative libertarian think tank along with other conservative voices listed below somewhere in here. First of all, Cato, while they have conservative views on a lot of things, they're mainly a libertarian publication, and libertarians are historically open border. So it's really kind of like asking Ford to prove Ford is the best, like accessing a Ford commercial to prove that Ford trucks are the best. It's kind of a senseless argument. I mean, really, when she says that she didn't want to show bias, she could have used an actual pro closed borders publication instead of an open borders publication, because you still look biased. You might as well have used CNN. She says, here's why I'm against the wall. And this is where the fun starts. Walls don't work. First and foremost, this is a factual statement. Not that it's actual factual, but she's putting it off as a factual statement. And it's not a factual statement. And I'll get into that in a minute. Walls don't work. Illegal immigrants have tunneled under and or erected ramps up and down walls and simply driven over them. People find a way. When East Germany erected its wall, it created a military zone staffed by booted machine gun carrying guards ready to shoot to kill. Yet thousands managed to make it into West Germany anyway. More to the point, do we really want to model ourselves after communist East Germany? This is a hilarious point that she's trying to make. This is number one. First of all, the people that erect the ramps and dig the tunnels are the cartel. And those tunnels are regularly shut down, and there's not many of them. When you talk about 2,000 miles of border and the small amount of tunnels there actually are, they're a statistical anomaly. And same thing with the ramps. The ramps aren't generally seen. They're not done often. And so they do the same thing with gun control. The left does the same thing with gun control. They want to attack things like AR-15s, when statistically AR-15s are almost never used in an intentional homicide at all in the United States. And so, but they try to stick with that talking point because yes, tunnels do exist, and yes, they have used ramps before, but it's almost never done. And then when we do find tunnels, we shut them down, destroy them, cave them in, so on and so on. And then it takes years, and it's very, very expensive and lengthy to to dig these tunnels. And then in much of the areas, while there are some tunnels here and there throughout some of the states, you take places like Arizona where you have the caliche and really hard ground and rocky ground, and of course rock-made mountains. It's really hard, if not impossible, to tunnel through some of the areas. So it's just a bad argument, and in no way does it validate her statement of walls don't work. She used that as a statement of fact when it's not. In other measures and in other examples, you can go to the Southern Wall of Israel that was built specifically to stop illegal immigration from Egypt, and it stopped somewhere just north of 80% of illegal immigration into Egypt or into Israel. And then once they extended the wall and made it higher and bigger, it has stopped nearly 100%. Another one is the Great Wall of China. Worked fabulously for thousands of years, and when it was finally breached, it was breached because the hordes that were trying to breach it and attack and invade were far bigger than what the wall was ever built for. Now, this is very easily found information. So, in fact, walls do work. There are examples of this all over the planet, and there are examples of this in very rich neighborhoods, and so on and so on. Walls and large fences work. You look up any security specialist website, they talk about putting up walls, they talk about putting up large fences and things like that. So this statement of fact she's trying to put out there that walls don't work, that's something that the left keeps saying, but it's not true. And there's no way they can make it true. But of course, she has to say that our wall is much like a communist gesture from East Germany, because much like the left, anything according to the left, anything the right wants to do is makes them just like Hitler. And this is just one of those comparisons that the left has to make, even though there's nothing to really back them up. Number 2, most illegal immigrants are quote-unquote overstayers. They come to the U.S. legally for vacations, jobs, schools, etc., and then stay long past their visas. By 2012, overstayers accounted for 58%, and then in parentheses, the majority of all unauthorized immigrants. A wall is meaningless here. So that 8% makes it the majority, or 9% makes it the majority of overstayers that they know of illegals that they know of. Now, with the tens of millions of illegals that are in here and the hundreds of thousands that cross our border every year, if you believe that there's 100% accountability there, that we know every person that has crossed that border, you're a damn idiot. That's just bottom line. So to think that 58% is even remotely close to accurate makes you a pretty dull person. It's not accurate. It can't be accurate because we don't know how many are here. We do know how many we've caught. We do know how many we've deported. We do know approximate numbers, but that 58% is not a concrete number. And then, of course, there's the 42% that she's not talking about. So anywhere else, I mean, if you had 42% chance of anything else happening, right, you wouldn't do it. Like anything negative happening. Like if you knew that by walking out your door, you had a 42% chance of dying, you probably wouldn't walk out your door. It's a stupid argument because she's, again, not accounting for 42% of illegals that could be stopped. And then that number is going to come into play later on. But it's a bad argument. It's a bad argument because she's using numbers that can't be verified and numbers that aren't accurate. Number 3, walls have little impact on drugs being brought into the U.S. This is an interesting one. According to the DEA, almost all drugs come in through legal points of entry, hidden in secret containers and or among legit goods in tractor trailers. A wall will have little to no impact on the influx of drugs into our country. Well, we might as well just not try then. I mean, hell. No. This can be easily debunked by the hundreds, if not thousands, of webcam or of trail cam footage and pictures from a number of citizen militia groups and even Border Patrol that show illegals and drug mules packing drugs in through the desert far beyond our borders. They're all over the internet. You can find them very easily. So again, she's using the little impact, just like she just pushed aside the 42% of illegals that could be stopped, where 58% is overstayers, but that's 42% doesn't matter. Walls have little impact on drugs being brought into the U.S. Almost all drugs come in through legal points of entry. Okay, so let's stop the ones that don't, and then let's fortify our legal points of entry to make it easier to find the drugs that are coming in through those ways. It's a horrible, lazy, not thought out argument on number 3, because there is thousands of pounds of drugs that come in on foot every year, and there's pictures and video evidence of that readily available to the public. Number 4, it's environmentally impractical. Now this is more of an opinion, but she again puts it as a statement of fact because that's what she wants it to be. Number 4, it's environmentally impractical. Walls have a hard time making it through extreme weather. For example, in 2011, a flood in Arizona washed away 40 feet of steel fencing. Torrential rains and raging waters do serious damage. Also, conservative sources generally do not address the environmental harm that walls create, but there is plenty of documentation showing the potential for irreparable damage to both plant and animal life. Irreparable damage is a very, very strong term and not able to be backed up by any facts. And then in 2011, a flood in Arizona washed away 40 feet of steel fencing. That happens. I mean, jump onto YouTube and look up all the houses that have been washed away by floods and hurricanes and stuff like that. I mean, how far do you want to go with your stupid logic? Because it got washed away, then it shouldn't do it? I mean, stop building houses because they can possibly be burned down or washed away by floods? Also, was that particular set of fence, that 40 feet, a whopping 40 feet, mind you, out of 2,000 miles of border, a whopping 40 feet, was that near low-lying ground? Did it have stable footing? What surrounds that whole situation? What are all the particulars about that? Because number one, 40 feet is not a lot. 40 feet is just a teeny tiny bit. And again, what's all the particulars that surround that? Why did it wash away? Right? It's not because it was a steel fence. That's what she wants you to believe. She wants you to believe that that all fence and walls have a hard time making it through weather. I'm going to base this argument off of 40 feet of steel fence that we don't know the particulars around it. It's just a stupid argument. And again, there is no factual evidence that irreparable damage to both plant and animal life will happen. Number 5, a wall would use force. Wall would force the U.S. government to take land from private citizens in eminent domain battles. Private citizens own much of the land slated for the wall. The cost of the government snatching private land and the legal battles that would ensue are incalculable. Well, again, this is one of those bad arguments that's kind of half true, because yes, there would be eminent domain battles, sure enough, some. But there is not a number yet on the amount of landowners that are okay with the wall. And of course, this is also not taking into consideration the 60-foot easement of the Roosevelt Reservation that spans the entire border wall. It's a 60-foot easement that's government property. And it also doesn't take into consideration the fact that international road already exists along much of the border, and that is already government property. So number 5, she's missing like 2/3 of the debate there. But she wants you to believe that, like, this is it right here, this little corridor of thought this little narrow-minded vision that this potato head has, a wall would force the U.S. government to take land from private citizens in eminent domain battles. Sure, to a point. Happens every day. Happens every day in cities, for city property, happens every day on state property, happens every day on federal property. It's nothing new for any local, state, or federal government to face, and we can move past this. But you're also missing 2/3 of the debate. Number 6, Border Patrol agents don't like concrete or steel walls because they block surveillance capabilities. In other words, they can't mobilize correctly to meet challenges, so in many ways, walls will make the job more difficult. I'm going to read number 7 with this. Number 7 is Border Patrol agents say walls are, quote, meaningless without agents and technology to support them. Are we prepared to pour countless billions annually, well, after the wall is built, to create a nearly 2,000-mile militarized 24-hour surveillance border operation? Because according to patrol agents, that's the only way the wall would work. Again, are we really going to use East Germany, a brutal communist state, as our model here? Again, just like any good leftist, you have to compare the wall to like racism and Hitler-esque and things like that. Because in this case, instead of comparing it to every other wall that has ever worked ever, going to narrow it down to East Germany. Get on YouTube. You can find countless number of current and past interviews that journalists have done with Border Patrol agents. You can find countless times Border Patrol agents have said that they want the wall, that we need the wall, period. Number 6 is Border Patrol agents don't like concrete or steel walls because it blocks surveillance capabilities. I've literally never heard that ever out of a Border Patrol agent's mouth. Ever. I see Border Patrol agents, I see the head of Border Patrol Council and things like that on TV and on YouTube all the time saying, we want this wall built. And in number 7, are we prepared to pour countless billions annually? That's an interesting point, and we're going to address that in a minute. Number 8, and this one is hilarious. Number 8, where barriers were built, there was little impact on the number of border crossers. According to the Congressional Research Center cited in the Cato report, after San Diego rebuilt a fence making it more wall-like, taller and more opaque, the structure, quote, did not have a discernible impact on the influx of unauthorized aliens coming across the border in the area. They simply came elsewhere, primarily where natural barriers such as water or mountainous regions preclude a wall. Number 8 said, walls work. That when illegals walked up on a wall, they said, well, shit, I can't cross here. Let's move to where there's no wall. The amount of, and you can tell that this smug leftist was just banging away at the keyboard for number 8, going, this'll get him. This'll get him. I got him on this one. The structure did not have any discernible impact on the influx of unauthorized aliens coming across the border. They simply went where there wasn't a wall, because walls work. It reminds me, this is what's funny about this, is it reminds me of the Jim Acosta idiocy that happened just the other day, where he's standing at the wall and going, look, there's nobody clamoring to get in. Because there's a wall there. Number 9, a wall has unintended consequences on other industries. For example, it blocks farm workers. It blocks farm workers from exiting when their invaluable seasonal work is done. Farmers, trust me, when it comes to illegals here, there's no problems with them exiting. Farmers are against the wall because it makes getting cheap seasonal labor almost impossible, as few American citizens want those jobs. I don't know who she talks to, because every pretty much every farm worker I've ever known has been a white American citizen. So, and that's growing up in Ohio and now living here in Arizona where there's ranches everywhere. Yes, there are Mexican labor help. I don't know what their immigration status is, but there's also white folks working there, white Americans. And if seasonal workers do get in, a wall makes it harder for them to leave. It traps migrant farm laborers in our country. It just gets funnier. I think she ought to start writing stand-up. So number one, less than 25% of all illegals work in agriculture, anywhere in agriculture. Less than 25%. I think it's even a little bit lower than that now. Work in agriculture. They come here because they're going to get shit from us. That's the biggest driving factor is the welfare state here. Number two, they can leave through points of entry. It's not a difficult thing to do. I mean, literally the hardest thing that they would have to do is to turn themselves in and get deported. Like, leaving isn't the hard part. It's number 9 again. Just an idiotic case to make. Number 10. I think there's 11 here. So yeah, we're almost done, folks. Number 10. Trump's $5 billion is a laughable drop in the bucket for what would actually be needed. For example, according to the Cato Institute, an estimate for a border wall area that only covered 700 miles was originally $1.2 billion. How much did it cost? In reality, $7 billion, and that's only for 700 miles. Whatever we think it's going to cost, experience shows us we must multiply it by more than 500%. Yes, $5 billion is a laughable drop in the bucket. It's never been said, and I don't. Nobody's under the understanding or belief that the $5 billion pays for the entire wall. So I don't really know what her point here was, other than, I don't know. She hasn't made a point yet, so I don't know why she would start at number 10. Nobody's thought that the $5 billion was going to pay for the entire wall. Number 11, last one, and one of the easiest ones. Oh, and going back to number 10 real quick. $5 billion is a laughable drop in the bucket for what would actually be needed. True enough. But the federal government spends just north of $4 trillion a year every year. Okay? That's in government workers and expenditures and stuff like that. Just north of $4 trillion a year. The $5 billion that's asked for is equivalent to, if you made $40,000 a year, it would cost you $50 to fence in your yard. That's the comparison. If you had a $40,000 a year job, it would cost you $50 to fence in your entire yard. That's the comparison. That $5 billion. So yeah, it's the $5 billion is made out to be this huge amount of money when she is correct where it's a laughable drop in the bucket. It's a laughable drop in the bucket for the expenditures that the federal government already does. According to MIT, in number 11, according to MIT engineers, the wall would cost $31.2 billion. Homeland Security estimates that at $22 billion, given the pattern of spending mentioned in number 10, we're talking about pouring endless billions into something that doesn't even work. Again, she puts this out there like a statement of fact that it doesn't even work. Says who? Because we have current and historical examples of walls working extremely well. There's actually less examples of walls not working than there are there's less examples of them not working than there are examples of them working. Of course, we taxpayers will be footing the bill, not Mexico. Given all the drawbacks, is this really the best use of our taxes? I don't know. Is $150 billion a year the best use of our taxes? Because that's what it costs to deal with our illegal immigration problem now. Okay, let's go back to the 42%, all the way back in the beginning of the list, that she doesn't care about the 42% that we don't know about. 58% are overstays. So at $150 billion a year that it costs for illegal immigration, it's prisons, that's welfare, that's all that stuff. $150 billion a year. Cost $22 billion to anywhere between $22 and $32 billion to build the wall. Let's take her half. Let's just say half. If we've stopped half the illegal immigration, what is that? Give you some time to do the math. $75 billion. $75 billion potentially saved by building a, let's use the high number, a $32 billion wall. So it's a 200, or it's we have a 100+%, 100+% in savings from the expenditure of the wall. Not to mention the violent crime that comes along with it, rapes, home invasions, theft, things like that. The insanity behind this entire article is astounding. So she goes on to say, so what happened after I posted this conservative source fact-based list of why the wall is a bad idea? Silence. I waited for someone to respond to engage with me. Where were the angry defense or rebuttals? But when I searched for the post after a few days, I couldn't find it. That's because it's literally some of the dumbest words ever typed on a computer screen. She's got this, what happened? Did they reply to me? No, there was silence. Maybe people didn't want to waste their time, because this is quite literally the easiest debated and argued points that she put out there. Everything I said is factual. You can go back and look at all of it. She starts off with a lie. Walls don't work, number one. That is a bold-faced lie. There is no historical evidence to prove this, and all she's doing is trying to compare our idea of a wall to communist East Germany. I mean, it's a lazy attempt at it. The left has to call us Hitler because we believe in, sovereignty of our country and security of our borders. I'm really surprised that this lunatic didn't put racism in here somewhere. I'm really shocked somewhere in here she didn't use some of the more popular terms that are used now, like to stop the browning of America. That's what one of the things the left says now. It's insanity at its highest level. She needs to be put in a padded room if she thinks that any of these are logical arguments against the wall, because not a one of them are. So, long video, but I had to do it. This was so funny to read this thing. It was and so easy to debunk every point that was made. I mean, seriously, some of the most unintelligent, unintellectual, and lazy arguments I've ever seen listed out, 1 through 11. I'll put the link in the description below. We'll talk to you later.